Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day wherever you are. I thought I would do a video on XQC's progress.
Maybe sacrifice? Take? 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 Queen takes.
D4 and
Fork?
the is trapped.
And just where he is right now. His highest rating's 900. And let's just take a look at some of his most recent games. So he's still playing. December 12th, 2023 was his last game. Let's check that one out. He won it, first of all. So we got Nelson 898 from Poland. And XQC's overall accuracy this game was 87.3 according to chess.com's engine. And his opponent's was 72.2. Surprisingly, he had a really clean game. 0 blunders, 0 misses, 1 mistake, and 0 inaccuracies. And his opponent had 1 blunder, 2 mistakes, 2 inaccuracies, etc. So let's dive into this. We got e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. This is pretty typical up until now. And then, yeah, the opponent plays d3, which right away to me strikes me as apparently it's theory. I'm not sure what opening it is, but first thing you're going to notice is that it blocks the light squared bishop. So unless you're going to go and fianchetto that bishop later on, it's probably not the best. It might be better just to play like a scotch or something, play d4. Anyways, nothing crazy though. Knight f6, bishop e3. Yeah, pretty normal here. We have bishop b4 check. So, you know, if I'm playing black, I'm looking at, yeah, this bishop wants to get out of the pawn chain, preferably, so that we can get ready to play d6. Maybe we play actually d5, but either way, you want to try to get that bishop out of the pawn chain. So I think this move is all right. But of course, yeah, white might want to play c3 anyways to play for c3 and then d4. So that's kind of the problem with that. XQC goes back, and here, you know, you're just assuming the opponent's gonna, especially, you know, an opponent like 800, they're gonna see that, okay, this pawn's here, I want to push it again and hit that bishop. They might not even be thinking about what comes next, but they're gonna play that. Not the end of the world though. It's just that white looks like they're getting a decent queenside expansion. He chooses to trade the bishops. So up until now, the evaluation bar is equal. Not much to say. Here I might think to, yeah, play d6 instead. Let's see what the computer says. I would think to play d6 instead, just reinforcing your pawn, opening up your bishop, but actually the computer prefers castling, which, you know, fair enough. I think there's just 2 different ways, but instead of developing the queen, usually, you know, you're going to try to develop your minor pieces before your queen, unless you have some kind of threat with the queen. And then they play b5, attacking the knight. XQC plays a5 here. So this is hard to attack, you know, like it's a knight on the edge of the board. Honestly, I think that it could be worse, because if this queen moves, you know, this knight might be hopping into the b3 square. And at the moment, there's just no way to really attack that knight. So, so then his opponent plays queen a4. It makes sense thinking of like an 800s, you know, reasoning, because I don't know, they want to attack this knight and there's this open square, but really nothing's happening. You know, he's not threatening to take the knight, and in fact, he's putting himself into a potentially dangerous situation with a rook there. And then XQC plays c5. So they choose not to take with en passant. They chose to play c4 instead. And right away, something to notice is this is closing down the position. We get these big holes on the d4 and the d5 square. And XQC castles. So computer's wanting d6, which is pretty reasonable. You're just tying down all the pawns, opening up your light square bishop. This bishop really needs to get out. So he does that. And yeah, so up until now, I mean, it's pretty normal. I don't have any, you know, there's no huge blunders, there's no huge mistakes. It's like maybe some of the moves that XQC is making is not the best move. Maybe I wouldn't make that move, maybe someone else wouldn't, but you know, he had like 0 blunders, 0 mistakes. So he forks the queen, the knight, and the b6 pawn. That b6 pawn would be pretty ugly to lose, I think. So taking is a great move, meaning it's the only move that's winning for black. The white's king is still in the center of the board. XQC actually plays e4, which is the best move here. just immediately attacking the center. The king's in the center of the board, and he's immediately attacking it, centralizing the queen, putting a little bit of pressure on the f3 square. Opponent goes back to d1, and we get knight takes on c4. It's a free pawn. His opponent plays knight g5, hitting the queen, and also got to be a little bit careful here because if you don't react properly, you could be forked there. XQC actually takes another great move. So we have another great move by XQC, meaning it's the only move that is going to be considerably better. Black is almost winning by 10 points up. So the next best move looks like it would have been queen e5. But so obviously this bishop can't take. It's not exactly hanging because the bishop's pinned. But anyways, XQC found the best move. Taking there makes sense. Otherwise, you're going to lose that bishop. This king's in real trouble. And I think, it's pretty obvious what Black's next move should be. We're getting ready to win the queen. I suppose they could block it with a knight. So let's see. Yeah, XQC plays. It wants rook f to e8, but I don't see a huge difference here. Either way, you're pinning that queen to the king. And so here this might be possible, but let's see what happens after knight e6 just to block it. I mean, it's going to be a free knight, and then castles is best for white here. Yeah, just get the king out of the way. Black is still winning, 9 points up. So, but that might be an interesting alternative. It'd be a pretty hard find, though. That's a kind of move that I would say 800 to, I don't know, 1100, 1200. Might not think about doing that. And so they play rook a2, takes. Obviously, it's clearly winning here. They pick up the knight and mate on qc1. That's very odd. I just realized that he just checkmated on qc1. What's XQC's name on chess.com? XQC or cow 1. Okay, beautiful mate, by the way. So yeah, I mean, all in all, pretty solid game. There's a couple things that I might do differently, but let's take a look at another one of those games. So here we have a loss. He played the same day, December 12th. All right, so let's take a look at this game. The opponent is an 850 rated player from Fiji. Wow, you don't see that very often. Fiji. XQC has the white pieces. A bit of a rougher game. He got 57.3% accuracy. His opponent had 82.4% accuracy. This time XQC had 1 blunder, 2 misses, 2 mistakes, 1 inaccuracy. So let's look at it. Let's see what he's actually playing still. I don't know. Okay, e4. We got e4, d6, knight f3, g6, c3. Okay. I mean, he's getting the knights out. That's good. Putting a pawn in the center. Yeah, d4 makes sense. Taking the center. This can never be that bad. And the opponent attacks with knight f6. So it looks like they're going for a King's Indian type setup. But it's funny because I thought that, and maybe someone can correct me about this, I've heard that you're not really supposed to be playing King's Indian against e4, which is what XQC played here. And yet the computer says all of it is theory. So, but anyways, because I play a London myself, and I've been facing the King's Indian quite a lot, and this d6 move, and then g6, bishop g7, it's very typical. So let's take a look at this. We got a trade. This isn't that bad. Usually you want to be careful when there's that trade of queens. If you have to take back with a king, sometimes it's like actually part of the theory and it's okay. But usually when you have to take with a king, it's not really ideal. In this case, he can take back with a rook. So he takes with the rook, and then we get knight h5. Pretty typical, just opening up the bishop, the fianchetto bishop, which unfortunately, gives up a free pawn for his opponent. Hitting the rook, he's going to have to move that bishop eventually because they're probably going to play rook e8. And then XQC, surprising move too. He's kind of centralizing his knight. He's defending the bishop. He's also threatening a fork. So, it might be very easy to just react to this, but I think this is kind of showing how XQC is getting better. And the opponent responds with bishop g4. It does give up this fork. So there's a lot going on, honestly, because you know, if you take on c7, he picks up that bishop, right? It's now undefended, but you get the free rook, but your knight's kind of trapped. And then you have, you know, bishop takes on f3, which is not ideal because it doubles the pawns. So there's a lot going on here. The best move, so XQC took on c7. I mean, it makes sense. You see a fork, you know that you're going to win a rook either way. He's going for the forked rooks, even if the material at the end of the day might end up being kind of similar and you end up with these doubled pawns. But the opponent took on f3 and XQC missed the rook d8 check, which is apparently a miss because the only way he can block, if he blocks with the rook, that's a free rook. If he blocks with the bishop, you're picking up the knight, and you're kind of getting some, you know, potential for your knight to escape. You could maybe someday bring the rook over here and get your knight out. But the opponent took on f3 and then XQC took back, so he's got these kind of ugly doubled pawns. This one's probably falling either way. And the opponent took on e5 check. Blocking with the bishop makes a lot of sense to me. And then they develop their knight. Again, makes sense. And not only are they developing their knight to that c6 square, that's pretty critical because it's defending against that rook d8 check that's pretty nasty. So that's now a very annoying knight. I would think, obviously, getting this rook into the game is of priority, and then also getting your knight out while it can, you know. So XQC goes rook d7. It looks like the computer prefers c3, which, quite honestly, from my point of view, just looks like this knight really jumping into the position. It can get pretty dicey. I mean, take a look at these knights. If these knights start getting into the position and putting pressure on this pinned bishop, black very quickly is going to be making a comeback. So, you know, this wouldn't be possible because the rook is controlling the d file, but c3 just makes a lot of sense to me because not only are you blunting that dark squared bishop, you're taking some squares away from the knight. He still can come in here with knight f4, which yeah, would be pretty uncomfortable. I guess I would go, if I'm white, I would think to go rook d2 seems the only move. Yeah, so rook d2 is a great move because it's the only move that's going to be keeping white floating. And then kind of hard because this rook is going to be very hard to get you know, back into the game. I would imagine eventually you want to get out of that pin and then maybe slide the rook over because so long as this king is pinned, this is going to be a lot of a counterplay for black. So after rook d7, the opponent does actually find knight f4, which is already pretty uncomfortable. Let's see how XQC responds. So he goes back with the rook. It's really the only move. I mean, it's, I want to say it's not super hard to find because if you don't find that, otherwise you're losing the bishop. It's the only thing they can defend. And then the opponent goes, looks like they're going pawn hunting, and the computer actually prefers knight d4, which is very sneaky because previously this wasn't possible because the rook was covering the d file. But now that this bishop is pinned and it needs this rook as the second defender, if you take this knight, not only are you getting, you know, dropping your bishop with check. Well, look what happened now with the discover attack. The dark square bishop is going to win the rook because this comes with check. You have to move. And he basically gained a tempo, taking a rook. So this would be a pretty nasty position. Black would be winning almost 5 points up here. But the opponent didn't find that. He played knight b4. XQC responded with rook d8 check, which I suppose makes sense. It looks tempting, but the problem is you're just gonna have to, yeah, so you're gonna have to go back if you want to defend this bishop. I guess he either forgot or just didn't care about that bishop. He wanted to give it up because, yeah, the move here is gonna be rook back to d2. You gotta hold on to that bishop. XQC plays king over to f1, and then we get knight c2, which is a great move by the opponent. This is really hard. The knight is covering the only other escape square, and it's protecting the rook. This king is completely trapped. XQC, let's see, it goes rook d3. So yeah, he misses mate here because this is very nasty. Actually, I'm surprised the opponent set up this, looks like a mating net, like they either saw coming or they just kind of fell into because of the activity. But the knight is covering the only escape square. It's also covering the rook, like we said. This knight jumping to c2 is preparing a checkmate. So beautiful checkmate. So yeah, you know, I think that There's a couple things. If we look the computer here, you know, this is this new thing on chess.com where it tells you what you played like. It's almost like, seems to me like your performance rating. If you guys play in a tournament, you'll see like you have your actual rating. If you have like a FIDE or whatever, USCF rating, you have your actual rating and then you have your performance rating in the tournament. It's almost kind of like that. So XQC apparently played like a 650. It says this gives an estimate of a player's rating based on the single game. So just based on this single game right here, he played much worse, like a 650, whereas his opponent played like a 1200, which I agree, because it's not just that XQC played a worse game there, it's that his opponent found some really good moves. So rate starting here, because he actually was winning. Don't forget, he had an advantage. He was winning here. But then his opponent found some really good moves. So first of all, knight f4, which it makes some sense. Might not be the hardest move to find, but it's very, very good, because it's not only developing your knight, getting it off the edge of the board, you're threatening to take that bishop with check. And then they find, not right away, but then they find knight c2 after rook takes. So they saw the mating net, which is pretty strong. And then in general, I would say that actually XQC played the opening really well. The opponent, I guess, just went for a King's Indian, but you know, he took the center, he was developing the knights here. He found some pretty good tactics to begin with. So here, for example, instead of just responding to the opponent's attack, he responded with his own counterattack, basically, and found this, you know, fork. So he actually started, the opening started really good. And like I said, XQC at some point, well, really right here, he actually had an advantage. But this is where it gets dicey. And as you guys may have noticed, one of the harder things is getting an advantage and then executing it, because usually you have an end game that results, and you got to keep playing precisely, and that's oftentimes one of the hardest things to do. So here, technically, white's winning, XQC is winning, but how to continue. So as we said, rook d8 is the best move here. It's not always the easiest move to find, because your opponent just took a piece. So very often, I would say under like 1000 ELO especially, one of the biggest mistakes that people make, that I made, is you see someone take your piece, you're just going to take back, otherwise I'm losing material. Well, slow down, just take a second, because oftentimes you're going to find the best moves when you just take a second and ask yourself, okay, is there anything else that I can throw in, an intermezzo move? And in this case there is, because this rook d8 move comes with check, first of all, that's to be noted. So your opponent has to respond to it, and it kind of buys you time. But these are, you know, slightly more advanced tactics to spot. And in this case, I think XQC totally does see these kinds of things. I've actually seen him spot some pretty cool tactics, but in this case, he just missed it. He took back right away. Both, you know, him and his opponent have like 8 minutes on the clock, but unfortunately XQC did this rook d8 check, and then which was already a miss, but instead of going back, he really needed to come back here, rook back to d2, and this actually keeps the game somewhat even. Anyway, so thanks for watching, guys. If you like this, hit the like and subscribe button. If you're interested, I myself am putting out videos every day on my own progression to try to reach 2000 ELO, with a little caveat that I'm not shaving my beard until I reach 2000 ELO. So if you want to check that out, click on the video on the screen, and I'll see you in the next video.